Hey there, Steve Quick here from sunny South Florida. Um, I just wanted to shoot a little video. I was sitting out front in my driveway, just taking in some fresh air, getting out of the house. Uh, it's absolutely beautiful today. Sun's just shining bright. A few light clouds, just keeping it somewhat cool. Of course, in South Florida, it's never cool. I just wanted to share. I decided I wanted to share my story with you guys. Um, I was just thinking about what I'm grateful for and all the things that I've been through, and where I'm at today, and you know what got me here. Starting back as a child, I grew up in a great home. Parents stayed together, never divorced. As a kid, I did feel a little sheltered just by the mere fact of my curfews were earlier than everybody else. I wasn't allowed to go here, go there with all the rest of the kids. Um, just I always felt like my parents were just being too protective. And going into my teen years, I started kind of rebelling, I guess you could say, and I started sneaking out of the house with some of the kids in the neighborhood, and we'd all meet up at one person's house, one of the cool kids, and you know, we had a great time. One thing that uh, you know, not so proud of looking back on it, but all the fathers in this neighborhood, we lived in kind of an outer edge town where all the fathers were kind of redneckish, and they all kept coolers in the back of their trucks, and of course, these coolers were loaded with beer almost 24/7. So, needless to say, we would snag a couple when we jumped out of the windows and ran down the road, chugging beers, and you the rest of that story. So, uh, going on, high school years were pretty good. Got into the cannabis stage, and started messing with that. I graduated. Uh, I wasn't a dropout. I did graduate. I had pretty good grades. Um, you know, the year I graduated was a big turning point. Um, I was in a rollover. Me, my best friend, and another good friend of ours were going down to get our first apartment together. Um, the other boy, not my best friend, his girlfriend wasn't supposed to go with us. She was supposed to go to the beach with some of her friends, but decided, no, I just want to take it easy and ride down with you guys. So, needless to say, she ended up going down with us. Unfortunately, on our way down, we're driving down I-95. Beautiful, bright Saturday afternoon, right around 12 o'clock, uh, and we end up rolling the car. The driver, uh, the traffic was medium. There was a truck right in front of us, and all of a sudden, last minute, we went to swerve, and we realized there was an object sitting in the middle of the road, and this truck had swerved last minute, and by the time the driver of our car saw it and tried to avoid it, he turned the wheel sharp, and when he cut back, the wheels went, sliding. They didn't keep control, and needless to say, got sideways and flipped the car. We flipped about 4 times. I remember looking at the ceiling the whole time. I could see white, black as the car's flipping, and the car comes to an abrupt halt, and I'm left looking out of the back hatchback, looking at this bright, beautiful sky, wondering what just happened. And I look, and I'm sitting, my butt's actually on top of, I was in the front seat, and my butt was on top of the front seat headrest, and my feet were stuck out the front window. There was a hole in the window. I look around, and there's nobody in the vehicle. Did everything I could to get myself unbuckled and get out of the vehicle to find the other three, the driver, his girlfriend, and my best friend laying on the concrete. It was a bad time. We ended up losing the driver and his girlfriend. My best friend ended up coming out of it 2 weeks in an induced coma, both lungs punctured, collapsed. Um, I remember him telling me while we were in the middle of I-95, I was holding him. He was the only one responsive of any state. And I remember him looking at me in the eyes and telling me how he loved me. And it was just, I thought I was going to lose him. And it was just unbelievable. I couldn't think straight. Thank God there were people that stopped and helped us. And like I said, the driver and his girlfriend died 2 days later. The next day, actually, in the hospital from serious head trauma. Um, my best friend made it out. He has a rib that's turned. 98% of his ribs were broken. He made it out, and he's well and fine today. He rides dirt bikes. He's got a little. His girlfriend's boy. He's got him racing dirt bikes and just having a blast with him, and it's great. It's great to see him walking. God works miracles, and He keeps certain people here for a reason, um, and takes others for a different reason. He's got His reason. Anyway, so moving on. Life just kind of went on. I was working different jobs here and there, installing car stereos and alarms for a couple of years. Actually, I was doing that during that period when the rollover happened. Went on for about another year doing that, and then kind of got in some situations where it kind of went off the deep end, and things were really messing with me about the rollover. Going on, I started working construction, started building screen enclosures over pools, big screen cages that cover the pools, swimming pools, to keep the bugs out. Started building those 6 months after I started. I was building it from the ground up on my own, and kind of just brainiac. I can show me once and I got it. So I ended up a year and a half after learning. I don't even think it was that long. A guy that I helped, a buddy of mine, and his boss came to me asking if I wanted to go to Australia and build some cages over there for him and be his right-hand man. Well, I did that. The guy was kind of wishy-washy and kind of scammed me out of a little bit of money and stuff. What he said he was going to pay me, but it was all good. It was just incredible. Um, Fast forwarding, during my construction days, I started playing paintball with my buddies and ended up hurting my lower back. Started aching one day and started going to the doctor. They started looking at it and they telling me that my disc was kind of bulging, and so I started doing therapy. But I kept playing paintball. I was actually playing tournament paintball. And I guess I just tweaked it too much, rocking back and forth, and ended up having to have a back surgery. By that point, by the time of surgery, I was already on pain medicines, and I was just eating pills like they were candy. I was taking this unheard of amounts every 2 to 3 hours just so I could work. I worked up till 5 days prior to my surgery. Because I had to pay the bills and everything. And, I'd gotten so addicted to these painkillers. Anyways, I have the surgery, and the next couple of months were going on. I do the 3 months of healing. I'm down, out of work. And pain's not going away. The major pain was gone, but still having a lot of pain. So I ended up having another surgery about a year after the first one, to kind of redo it basically. And, about a year or so after that, I was good, but I was addicted to pain medicines at this time. I was heavily addicted. Ended up getting to the point where the doctors couldn't give me enough screen went out. The doctors couldn't even give me enough medicine to keep me out of pain. It was ridiculous. So of course I ended up going to the streets in 2003, going back and forth with these addictions. I tried to get clean. I really wanted to get off them, and it was just so hard. And my father helped me. He was an ex-alcoholic. He had found sobriety in some rooms, and he brought me to a room, and that's where it started the first time. I got to know a bunch of great guys. So, I got sober, almost had a year, fell off the wagon, back on drugs. Um, just kept going back and forth. And in 2003, actually in 2002, my father was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. Nasty disease, just unbelievable what he went through the next year and a half. And I saw him go from being able to speak and just kind of walking with a limp to walking with a walker, not being able to swallow. He started not being able to chew his food and swallow it with his tongue, so they had to put in a feeding tube. He was slurring real bad, and then all of a sudden he started losing his speech, so he had to have a keyboard that he typed on and that spoke for him. He couldn't he could try to make out words, short stuff, but anything with any length to it, he had to type it out on his keyboard, and I just watched him wither away, sitting on the couch, just while he's in his recliner in front of me, was watching TV, kind of behind him, just hearing, just hurting, just seeing him going through what he was going through. He's a North Carolina boy, tough guy, great, honest, hardworking man, loyal to his family. His family was number one priority, and I took a lot from him. I learned a lot from him, and I thank God for that. So many things he taught me. Fixing my own car. There's a lot of kids out here nowadays that can't even check their air pressure in their vehicles. Anyway, so he passed away in 2003, and it happened on my birthday. So bad, he was getting to the point where he started suffocating, and he ended up taking his own life. He took off in the car. I was gone for a birthday party, actually for the guy that died in the rollover. We still had a little birthday party every year for him. So I was down 45 minutes away at this little party where held a party for him. Anyways, mother called and said he'd been missing for a while, hadn't taken his medication, and shot home doing 110, 120 fast as a slow Corolla could go. Got home, I'm driving all over town trying to find the car. I get a call to come home. There were some detectives there. I go home, and they told me the news. They had found the car and found him in the car with a shotgun wound. Turned my world upside down. I mean, it's just, I can only imagine what he was going through at the time. Not being able to breathe, knowing that your end is by suffocation, and that it's coming and you can feel it. I can only imagine, and I don't hate him one bit for doing it. The only thing I don't know is why he did it on that day, and I never will, and I try not to dwell on it. I beat myself up for years. It got so bad that I ended up on the streets. I took off. I got addicted to crack cocaine. I ended up homeless. I had just got a truck. I just started working for a company, little tiny company. This guy, can't even remember all the details, but anyways, he found me a truck. I bought the truck, and he actually put the money up for me, and I took off. And I ended up on the streets for 8 months. First couple months I had the truck until I got caught driving on a suspended in the truck. truck was impounded, and of course I had no money to get it out. Um, so at that point I was on foot. I slept behind dumpsters. I slept in abandoned crack houses. It's something I don't ever want to relive again, and I don't wish on anybody, even my worst enemy. But one day, God saved me by sending a police officer to stop me in the middle of the night, and instead of arresting me, asked me what my story was. Why was I on that street? Why was I doing what I was doing? And I had told him the story of my father, and that I just couldn't imagine living without him. And he said, "Your mother needs you, your family needs you." And long story short, I ended up giving him my mother's number, and he called her, and I couldn't talk to her. I was just so ashamed, so embarrassed. He called her and set up to meet somewhere and reunite me with her, and it was just such a great blessing. Um, it opened my eyes, but I will tell you, it doesn't stop there with the addiction. It kept going on. I was clean for a few months, and just again started the on and off with the addiction. Then I meet a great girl. I had been sober at the time, and I met a great girl. Um, I call her my wife now. We met online on MySpace. She was over in Bradenton on the west coast of Florida. I'm on the east coast, just a little north of West Palm Beach. And she had saw my profile on MySpace, and shot me a message. She was just kind of looking out to network with some guys, and kind of looking for her soulmate basically. And we talked on the phone for 2 hours the first night, and it was just an amazing connection. Uh, and unfortunately, I was in a relationship at the time, and I hadn't told her that. But it was a really rocky relationship. It was so messed up, and just this other girl had she was bipolar, and she ended up not taking her meds for a little while. And over that weekend, it was Friday night, I spoke to her, to my wife now, and over the weekend, something happened. This other girl that I was dating, flipped out. So I end up uh, my wife, my wife now at the time to be, called her and told her the whole bit, and she still decided that she wanted to meet. And at the time, I didn't have a vehicle, so unbelievably, a woman of all people driving 3 hours across state, 3.5, I think, to come meet me, not knowing who I was, what kind of person I was. And she drove all the way over here, and we hit it off. It was amazing. A month later, I asked her to move in. I said, "Why don't you just quit your job there, move in, and look for work here," because she wasn't happy. She did that. 3 months later, we were engaged. While I was in jail, I ended up getting addicted to crack again from some people on the job site that were working with me. Ended up in jail for 5 months. She stayed. That amazed me for one. To get out of jail, and I was clean, and I found a job working with a guy that was just absolutely phenomenal. It was the same type of work, construction work, and I'd never worked for an owner, a construction owner that wasn't an alcoholic or drug addict, addicted to pot. And, this guy was clean cut, gym buff. He was a parachute, he was a parajumper, constantly jumping out of planes. So many stories. Come in on Monday. Oh, it was a beautiful. I had so many beautiful jumps this weekend. This guy was crazy. Sorry, the next gets stiff. Uh, the guy ended up being like my father, and my wife and I, a year less than meeting, were married July 4th, 2008, and it just had an amazing, it was just beautiful down in Key West. I get home from my honeymoon, and we hired a new guy. I was the only guy working for this new guy that I was with. I was the only guy building and screening closures, so he decided to give me a helper. The guy we hired talked that he was clean and everything, and turns out he wasn't. Started bringing a bunch of pills around and junk, and I ended up back off the wagon again. Of course, 2 months after I married my wife, I end up with an infection on my spinal cord that put me in the hospital, um, and ultimately in this wheelchair that you've seen me scooting around in. Um, I ended up, from the drugs I was doing, I was shooting up and ended up getting an infection in my bloodstream. And, it was just a freak accident. Infection built up on my spinal cord and basically shut everything down. From going into the hospital with neck and shoulder pains at 8 o'clock in the morning till 4:30 p.m., everything shut down. I had completely become paralyzed. And it changed my life for forever. Um, I don't know if I'll ever walk again, but it sure has opened my eyes. It's brought me sobriety for one. Um, God knew I was on a fast track to death, and He has a reason for me, and He stopped me. He stopped me before I killed myself. Um, so I end up paralyzed, and I was complete quad. Couldn't move anything. Wasn't breathing. I was on a breathing machine. Said I would never come off the machine. And it was a mess. A week later, after they said that I would never come off, I started breathing on my own. And at that point, I started getting movement. Um, Long story short, I ended up, getting my arms back. Thank God, but I'm paralyzed from the chest down. I had no trunk control. I had like a weeble wobble. I wobble all over the place. Um, and through the whole situation, being that the infection was MRSA, the guy that my wife was working for, which he was his chief executive, she was the assistant to the chief executive officer of a medical facility, and they discriminated on her for weeks, and then ended up firing her and trying to say she falsified reports and all this other junk, and was just an So now we're both out of work. She didn't even tell me until a couple of months after it had happened, just to make sure that I was strong enough to handle the news. And when I came home from the hospital 8 months later, it was living off unemployment and Social Security for me. Um, and it was tough. It was a crazy first few years. Medical problems like you wouldn't believe. Infections and severe spasticity that locked me up, hospitalized, in a lockup like a seizure several times, 5 times within 3 months, one year. And thank God 2013 has been our best year, but the hell we went through is just unbelievable. So our unemployment obviously came to an end, and all we had was my disability checks. And thank God, my wife was looking around online, trying to find something she could do from home. There's just too much care needed for my care, too much stuff, and there's no way that either of us could work a 9 to 5, maybe part time. But she was looking online and found something, a work from home thing that gave us the ability to put some money into it and grow our money. It was a big risk. We gambled a lot of money on this program, but it paid off big time. And from that point to today, I've been involved with network marketing now since October 2011, and we're here now in August of 2013, and I will never work a regular 9 to 5 in my life again, and neither will my wife. Um, things aren't perfect in our lives, but just being able to work from home has allowed us freedom to. Last week, I went off to Tampa for 5 days to do special therapy. Just prior to that, we were out in Denver for an event that was just phenomenal, and we went early and stayed extra days just because we could, just because we worked from home. Um, I thank God every day for the ability to just be able to wake up, and whether I'm in pain because I deal with burning in my leg, I may wake up one day in just absolute agony, but you know what? I still have gratitude for being able to wake up, period. Because I was on death's table, and a miraculous surgeon released the infection and saved my life. God slowed me down. He's given us so many blessings since then. And I'm just so tickled pink. It's amazing. I know I've been rambling on for a long time, and I have given a lot of details, more than I wanted. So, if you want to get to know me more, and you want to hear more about specific situations, or you want assistance with anything, you just want to talk about how you have a bad situation and financial problems, and you could use some advice, feel free to just contact me, and we'll go from there. Okay? So I wish everybody an absolute blessed day, and make every single day the best day of your life. And that's true from my heart. I'm Steve Quick, and I'm out of here.